Leadership is important. Every successful business, sports team, battleship, and symphony orchestra has one person whose role it is to be the boss. Someone in charge, in control. The buck stops here. And speaking of bucks, who's in control of what's in your pocket? Today on MoneyWise, making the decision to own your money and not the other way around, and some ways to do that. And here to provide some direction is Rob West, our host, teacher, and the president of Kingdom Advisors. If you're a new listener or a veteran and you have a question, call right now, 800-525-7000. That's 800-525-7000. I'm Steve Moore, and welcome to MoneyWise. Rob, financial success and ultimately financial freedom means that you understand your money and you control your money, not the other way around, right?
Well, that's exactly right, Steve. If you don't control your money will control you. Your money will find a place to land, so you need to name every dollar. Let me help you do that today with some very practical suggestions to keep you in the driver's seat when it comes to your money. First, carry cash. We've mentioned this before here on MoneyWise. The advantage is you can't overspend like with a credit card, and it's harder to part with money instead of plastic. In fact, studies say that you'll spend up to 30% more with plastic. This will also help control impulse spending as well. Number two, forget making minimum payments. When you do, the credit card company thinks their prayers have been answered. That's what they want you to do. The game here is that they'll keep raising your credit limit until you begin carrying a balance and allowing that steady flow of interest to head their way. Yeah. Get that card paid off now and get out of the minimum payment game. All right, number three, pay off smallest balances first. Money is as much psychological as it is financial, and it helps to see some progress. We call this the debt snowball. Line up the cards, smallest to largest balance. Then free up as much margin in the family budget as you can and make sure you have at least $1,000 saved. Then pay each card's minimum payment, but attack the smallest balance with all available funds. Once this one is paid off, celebrate, and then move on to the next smallest card. All right, let me give you just a couple more. Number four, charge only what you can pay off each month. Now, I don't have a problem with you using credit if it's used for budgeted items. As long as you don't have an annual fee, you can even build up your frequent flyer miles and have a way to dispute charges if a seller does you wrong. But all of this is negated if you have to pay interest. And so just be aware of that. Right. And then number five, determine what to do with God's manna. What do I mean? Well, when money comes your way unexpectedly, don't just absorb it, but decide in advance what you will do if you receive a bonus, have a garage sale, receive an inheritance, or find gold in the backyard. Give that money a name. Don't let increased lifestyle spending take it away from you.
Wow. Well, those are great points. Again, number one, carry cash. Number two, forget making minimum payments. Not the way to go. Pay off the smallest balances first, kind of a snowball approach. Fourth, charge only what you can pay off each month. And then lastly, determine what to do with God's money when money comes in unexpectedly, which often it does, at least once a year for most of us. Don't just absorb it into your lifestyle, but make a plan in advance. Go out for a big pizza and then sock away the rest or pay off some debts or whatever. I'd like your point about the credit card companies raising your credit limit. So many of us think that when they do that, it's their way of patting us on the back and letting us know that we're buds. But in reality,
that's right.
It's not a friendly thing at all. It's trying to get you to the point where you can't pay it off each month.
I like to call it Debt Mountain, Steve. Here's the way it works. You might even be in college, maybe even in high school. You get the first notice that you are approved, you're worthy, you deserve to have this. They want to get you in. They're fine not making money on you right away. They want you to just start spending and get accustomed to this fact that credit is how we pay for things. But as that credit limit rises, as you have more opportunity to expand your lifestyle, you begin charging and ultimately carrying a balance. That's where they begin to start making money. If you get behind, those over limit fees and late fees really add up.
Amen. You're listening to MoneyWise with Rob West. I'm Steve Moore. We're here with you each day at this time to help you find true financial freedom, to find God's plan for your money, your finances, and to bless your family and your church. That music means we have to get out of here, but we'll be right back in 60 seconds. Don't go away.
God cares a great deal more about our money than most of us imagine. In fact, Jesus says more about our use of money and possessions than about anything else, including both heaven and hell. In Managing God's Money, author Randy Alcorn breaks it all down in a simple, easy-to-follow format that makes it the perfect reference tool if you're interested in gaining a solid biblical understanding of money, possessions, and eternity. Managing God's Money is available when you click the store button at MoneyWise.org.
Do you know if you have enough? Enough money? Enough house? Do you know how much is enough? If not, Ron Blue can help with his book, Master Your Money, a step-by-step plan for experiencing financial contentment. Learn how to save, invest, and give wisely, how to create a long-term financial plan, and how to get out of debt. You'll find it all in Master Your Money by Ron Blue. Available when you click the store button at MoneyWise.org.
Good to have you with us today on MoneyWise. Rob West will love to chat with you about anything financial going on in your life. So call right now, 800-525-7000. With that, we begin by going to Terre Haute, Indiana. And Annette, thanks for your patience. What's on your mind?
Thank you for taking my call.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Happy to.
I have a question about my mortgage. I've been paying extra on it for the last several years, and I've whittled it down to about $19,000. And I have the money in a retirement account, and I was wondering if it would be wise to take that money out of the account and pay it off so I could be debt-free then. That's my last debt to pay off.
Wow. Well, that's great, Annette. First of all, let me just encourage you about what you've been doing here. I think the fact that you've been focused on this, you've been paying extra toward your mortgage, you're moving quickly toward being completely debt-free. That is phenomenal. And I love the idea of finishing that off. Don't always love the idea of using retirement funds. So let's explore that a bit. First of all, what is your age, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 64.
Okay. And you're married? Is that right?
I'm divorced. My first husband died, and then I remarried, and I'm divorced now.
Okay. Tell me about your other retirement assets.
I have a teacher's retirement pension. I am drawing Social Security on my deceased husband, and I do, and then I get a small monthly amount too from my other retirement, my IRA, then for my income.
Okay, very good. And so the retirement assets that you have, do they cover your expenses in full?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And so you're not drawing anything out of this IRA currently?
I am. I am drawing a little bit out, about $1,000 monthly.
Okay.
I think if I had my house paid off, I would not need to do that.
Yeah. And what is the balance on the IRA?
The IRA is about $300,000.
Okay. All right. Very good. Yeah. So I think this is a good plan, actually, given that you are beyond 59 and a half. So you're not going to have the 10% penalty. Of course, you will have to add the $19,000 to your taxable income. So the only question there would just be whether you want to spread that over 2 tax years, maybe do half of it this year, half next year. The benefit of doing it all now, though, is even though you have to pay the tax, and you will at some point, you eliminate that payment, as you know, which reduces lifestyle spending and allows you to perhaps draw less from the IRA, perhaps even living fully on the pension and the Social Security that's available. And that's really the benefit and why we encourage folks to be debt-free, either heading into or in retirement, because it keeps their spending need as low as possible. So, yeah, I think that's a great plan. What do you plan to do? Are you making any changes kind of with your plan moving forward with regard to work or serving the Lord?
Well, I am serving the Lord right now. I have money set aside to buy a travel trailer. I had one, and then I had a mishap with it, and I put the insurance money in the bank to buy another one. But I go on short-term mission trips for disaster relief.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And take my 3 dogs with me, which are therapy dogs, and we've been many places together. So I want to get back to doing that.
Yes.
And again, it's a wonderful blessing. The other thing with getting the house paid off, I have almost 6 acres, which is a lot to take care of on my own. And
sure.
I'm also considering selling the place then. And then I don't know if that should make a difference with me paying it off now or just wait and maybe try to sell it.
Okay. Well, just some quick thoughts on that. I would say if you plan to go ahead and put the property up for sale quickly, then I wouldn't pay it off. You could leave that money right there in your IRA, and you'd be paying the balance off in full anyway with the proceeds of the sale. However, if you are unsure about that, or you're thinking about it, you think it could be a year or 2 down the road, then I might go ahead and pay it off, just so you, again, get your expenses down as low as possible, give you a little more freedom and flexibility in your ministry. And boy, it just sounds phenomenal how you're serving the Lord. I love to hear what you're doing. So I think you're on the right track. I'm encouraged by what I've heard today, and certainly may the Lord bless you.
All right. Thank you so much. God bless you too.
Thanks, Annette. Bye-bye. 1-800-525-7000. Let's continue. Penobscot, Maine, WHCF. Catherine, how are you today?
I am fine. Thank you for taking my call.
Happy to chat with you today. What's going on?
Well, my husband and I have lived in our house for 30 years. We're both in our low 70s, and we have it for sale. And we were wondering, if we sell the house, do we have to pay tax on that money that we get from selling the house? We live on Social Security right now.
Okay, very good, Catherine. Well, thanks so much for your call. What do you believe you'll sell the property for? What are you listing it at?
With the house in 10 acres, it's on the market for $200,000.
Okay, very good. No, you should be just fine, actually. So there's an exemption that allows you to sell your primary residence so long as you've owned and lived in it for the 2 out of the last 5 years prior to the sale. As a married couple filing a joint return, you can have up to $500,000 in profit, not just the sale of the property, in profit, and pay no tax on the gain. So the law lets you exclude this much of otherwise taxable profit from your taxable income. So given that the selling price is $200,000, you'll obviously be well below that $500,000 threshold with your profit. And given that it's been your primary residence for 30 years, this is exactly what this exclusion was designed for. And so you all should be all set. Where are you headed from here? Are you going to buy another piece of property, or what are you doing?
We have grandchildren in Omaha, Nebraska. We have grandchildren in Florida and South Carolina, and we want to go visit. We have a little pull-behind camper trailer that we want to go and travel.
Oh, I love it. Steve, you know a little bit about that, don't you? Grandchildren?
Well, thankfully, my grandchild is right here in town, but I would get a trailer and haul it off to various parts of the world if I had to be with her. But Catherine, with your family far flung, it sounds like you'll be putting some miles on your vehicles, huh?
Yes.
Well, that's a great thing and a great opportunity for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your call. Thanks so much. Rob, I know this isn't your bailiwick, if you will, but gee, if one just bought an RV and lived in it for the rest of your life, would you have to pay any sort of property taxes or anything like that to the government?
You wouldn't. No, not if it's not fixed in a specific location. And so there wouldn't be any property tax per se on that. And, it's interesting, Steve, more and more people are doing that, especially as they get into that season of life and saying, be it for, we've heard 2 great examples of that today. One using it to visit family and stay on the road that way. Another using it as a ministry opportunity and doing disaster relief life and serving the Lord that way. I think two great examples of how when we get to that season of life, it's, when we look at the biblical model of retirement, it's not about accumulate as much as we can so we can live this life of leisure and sit on the front porch or walk the beach and pick up shells. No, we redirect what God has given us, the experience, the wisdom, the ministry heart and passions that we have toward his service, and using our time and resources in a completely different way to serve the Lord. And I think that's what we're hearing today.
If you don't mind me pointing out, you've used that reference several times in the last year about going to the beach and picking up shells. I mean, if that's your hobby, if you don't have anything against picking up shells. I mean, God created them; they're beautiful, but
they're beautiful.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you're a Florida guy, so you should know about shells.
I like shells, actually.
It doesn't sound like it. That's Rob West. He's honest most of the time. If he can help you today with your finances, give us a call. 800-525-7000. We'll be right back.
Many people adopt an attitude toward marriage and finances that it'll all work out somehow, but sadly, it often doesn't. Financial woes can devastate a marriage, but there is a better way. God's Way. Money and Marriage God's Way by Howard Dayton will help you discover God's approach to growing your finances, strengthening your relationship with your mate, and cultivating godly joy. Money and Marriage God's Way is available when you click the store button at MoneyWise.org.
The financial wealth you leave behind could be the best thing that ever happened to your loved ones, or the worst. In Splitting Heirs, Giving Your Money and Things to Your Children Without Ruining Their Lives, Ron Blue explains why it's important to make these decisions now, instead of forcing your heirs to do it later. Splitting Heirs will foster a real appreciation for the precious resources that God has entrusted to you. And it's available when you click the store button at MoneyWise.org.
You're listening to MoneyWise with Rob West. And let's take another phone call up to Hartford, Connecticut, Faith Radio. Brady, what's on your mind? How can we help you today, sir?
Hey, thanks so much for taking my call.
Happy to.
My question is, what would you say to a guy in his mid-30s, has a young family, making about 52, a little north of 52 a year, with a credit score hovering around 690, with not much savings except for his 401k, with the American dream in mind of maybe going for an FHA loan for a home.
Is this someone is this someone you know, Brady? This guy?
I'm asking for a friend.
Oh, for a friend. Yes. Okay.
That's great. Well, you're asking the right questions, Brady, because, as you're starting out, young family, just getting going, you want to make wise decisions. You really need to keep that solid financial foundation under you. It's challenging enough just figuring out what it's like to be a husband and raising a family and serving the Lord. And I think especially as you're kind of getting going in your career, and the last thing you'd want is added financial pressure because you tried to move too quickly in pursuing, quote unquote, the American dream and home ownership. And so I'd like to take our time here. It's difficult, I know, because we see the housing market increasing. We feel like we're throwing money away every month through rent, and yet you're keeping yourself from the added stress of doing that too soon. Now, let's get a plan for that, though. So you're participating in your 401k. Do you have any debt to speak of?
Got a little credit card debt. We own. We're trying to pay off 2 cars.
Okay.
But that's really it to speak of. I got about $2,500 in credit card debt, so it's not too terrible, but it's there.
Okay. And are you just paying the minimum payments on that, or are you trying to knock that down a little bit each month?
It ebbs and flows. I'll do a minimum, for a couple months, and then I'll try to throw some more in there over time.
And what about emergency savings, Brady?
That's that usually hovers between 500 and 1,000. That's about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think, as much as you might like to move ahead with trying to get in a home as soon as possible, I think we need to tackle some other things first. So remember, there's only 4 things we can do with money: money we live, money we give, money we owe, money we grow. And so kind of at the starting point of each of those, the first thing we want to do with living expenses, we want to get on a spending plan. So if you don't have one, I'd have a written budget, a written plan for your money. And then once it's written, don't just stick it in a drawer. You've got to track it, whether you use a physical envelope system or a smartphone or a web app like mint.com. In the O category, we've got to repay high interest debt before we start thinking about anything else. And so I'd really try to dial back lifestyle and spending. And that's where the spending plan comes in. So we can free up margin that we can use, not just to kind of, send 10 or 20 extra dollars a month to the credit cards, send 100 or 200 or 300, so we can really knock that out quickly. Once we save $1,000 in the grow category, we've got to get to 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, at least 3 months, I'll say, before we start thinking about the house. And then certainly you want to be doing some giving as a priority right off the top. And so I think that's where your focus needs to be. The other thing is, and you could start this now, is start looking at the budget to say, okay, once this credit card debt is gone, and once we've saved 20%, how much house can we actually afford? Don't start with the neighborhood and the houses, start with the budget. You want to allocate no more than 25% of your take-home pay for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So that's going to tell you how much house you can afford. That's also going to give you a goal for your savings. And I think that is really where you need to focus your time and attention. And Steve, why don't we send Brady a copy of Your Money Counts, so he can really begin to digest these principles from God's word and really get going on this plan.
Yeah, we'll do that. Brady, does that help at least a little bit?
Yeah, it certainly does. It's more or less what I was kind of expecting to hear. So It's always nice to hear affirmation from a professional as yourself. The other thing that it brings to the table is that I'm finding myself I'm making my rent payments are just as much as what I've been told I would be doing as far as a mortgage payment.
Right.
So, I don't know if that's, exactly. You mentioned the whole throwing money away, and I've heard, I feel like I'm doing that. So I don't know if you could speak to that.
We're about out of time, but let me just give you a quick response to that. I think, the challenge is, yes, it might be the same in terms of the payment. The problem is you don't have the down payment. So you'd go into the house with, 90 or 100% financing. You'd have to add the 1% roughly a year of the value of the mortgage in the private mortgage insurance that you don't have now. And if the housing market were to turn down, remember, it's been on a tear on the upside. If it were to turn down, you could be upside down, where the home is worth less than the value of the mortgage, number one. And number two, because you don't have any savings, if the unexpected comes, all of a sudden now you're putting your home at risk, and you could really begin to spiral down quickly. So it's not just a matter of the payment. It's a matter of you having equity going in, and that's where that 20% down payment comes from.
Brady, we appreciate your call today. We wish you the best. Thank you very much. Money and life don't run on independent tracks. They exist together. Unfortunately, they often seem to be in direct competition with one another. In Never Enough, 3 Keys to Financial Contentment, author and teacher Ron Blue helps you break down all your financial options to a basic 4, and then shows you how to keep them spinning alongside each other without confusion or regret, and with all your dreams, plans, and principles still intact. Best of all, this volume is infused with stories of real people who've seen God direct and bless their financial choices and outcomes in miraculous ways. Ron Blue's guidelines are practical, they make sense, and they're thoroughly biblical. Guidelines such as spend less than you earn, avoid debt because debt always mortgages the future, give generously because giving breaks the power of money, plan for financial margin because the unexpected always comes, and then finally set long-term goals because there is always a trade-off between the short-term and the long-term. So to order your copy of Never Enough, 3 Keys to Financial Contentment, visit us today at MoneyWise.org. That's online at MoneyWise.org. Just click the tab at the top that says Store. the book you're looking for, Ron Blue's book, Never Enough. For Rob West, I'm Steve Moore. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hope you found something helpful and that you'll come back and join us again tomorrow. We'll be back with a brand new edition of MoneyWise.